Okay, are you picking up the transcript? Okay, preparing synchronization. People coming.
Good morning, Mark.
Hello, Miloš. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you, Mark?
Very good, very good. Thank you very much for joining. We just closed the door. Very good. It's a Friday. It's almost the weekend. Let's see who else joins. We'll give it a moment. Here we go. Hello, Ishan. Oh, Ishan's leaving already. That was quick.
I watched yesterday's introduction video. You got me laughing at two monkeys, procrastination monkey and panic monkey. And it was funny because it was relatable. So
Oh yeah.
yeah.
It's one of my biggest challenges in life. The procrastination monkey is too big on my shoulders.
I think Azim said that maybe after first or second meeting we had that although we do this for the development of our professional skills, but everything I learned here, I first try to use it in my private life. And I'm so sorry that I can't get the longer meeting and everything because some of the things are awesome. I got back to watch some of the meetings. To the graphs that you made are awesome for some stuff, like when I'm planning to buy something like electronic, I use that graph. Is it functional? Is it pleasurable, etc.? So
Excellent.
great life tips, just to let you know.
Absolutely. Well, thank you very much for the kind words and the feedback. Highly appreciated. I mean, all of this, even though it's focused on, doing a day job, implementing new products, running projects, it's equally as useful in life. I've learned a lot through doing these kind of things and picking up all of these little gems of learnings along the way. So yeah, I'm really happy that it's useful for you. That's the whole point. Makes me happy if you even use one small part of it, then I'm happy. Here comes Purnima. Hi, Purnima. Here comes Ishan.
Hello, Mark.
Hello,
Good
hello.
Good morning. How are you
Good morning.
doing?
Very good, very good. Excited to see you all again. Morning, Ishan.
Good morning, Mark. Good morning, everyone.
We'll give it maybe another minute and then we'll get started. Hopefully we have a few more. If not, we'll jump straight into it. As always, we have a lot to get through in a very short space of time. So we'll see how much we can squeeze in. And actually, if there's maybe a few less of us, we'll maybe have a bit more time at the end for any of your questions or any any deeper kind of topics that you might want to touch on very quickly. But we'll give it another minute and then we'll get started. Here we go. Hello, Lahiru. Thank you very much for joining.
Hey, Mark. Sorry for joining.
Good. Hopefully you're all okay. We'll get another 15 seconds and then we'll get started so we don't waste too much time so we can cover a lot of topics today. All right, okay. Well, let's give it a start, and then if more people join, if you'd be so kind, click the admit button as we go through, as I'll be focused on covering a lot of topics very quickly. Welcome to this particular topic around exceptional planning and getting things done. It's a range of skills around really getting things done, everything from basic planning through to just driving actions and getting stuff delivered, products, etc., delivered through that. So before we jump into the learning topics, I'm going to ask you to do something which I'll only ask a couple of times during these sessions. I'm actually going to ask you, if you would be so kind, as to put your video cameras on just for the first 5 minutes or so, because I want to try and get a bit of your body language feedback on this particular topic that we're going to start with. So if you'd be so kind as to, if you've got a video camera, switch your video cameras on so that I can see you and kind of get a bit of your response during this session. So go ahead, put your video cameras on, and then we'll get started. There we go. I get to see all of your beautiful faces this morning. Hi, Milosh. Others, put your cameras on would be great. Give it a second, and then we'll jump in. Hopefully, if you've got cameras. Pranima, wonderful Pranima, wonderful to see you. Fantastic. Okay, well, let's get started. So, for this particular lesson, I have a story for you, and like all good stories, you know, we should have a beer glass. Actually, hold on, let me just change camera angles. Let's see if I can change camera angles. Should be able to change camera angles if I've set this up correctly, because you'll need to see the beer glass. Give me a moment. Camera angle, here we go. The technologies, I'm getting there. So yes, a story, and all good stories start with a beer glass, my biggest beer glass, and of course a beer. Beer is always good for a beer glass. And I'm going to fill the beer glass up, but I'm going to leave the beer there for a moment. I'm going to fill the beer glass full of stones as a starting point. I'll try not to break my glass.
Mark, sorry, we don't see you. Did you intentionally turn off your camera or not?
There we go. So I filled the glass full of stones. Who would say or agree with me that the glass is full? A bit of feedback. Is the glass full?
Mark, we cannot see you.
You cannot see me. Doubt.
You're off video.
Let me try that again. See, I can see.
We are all on video, Mark, but you went off video.
Okay, hold on, just a second. Let me.
And guys, I'm on the road, so I do not have good connectivity today. So
Okay, right.
unfortunately, I'll not be able to be on the video call.
Okay, now do you see me? Hello.
Yes.
Oh, here we go. Shaman just coming in. Admit. There we go. That's better. Let me start that again then. So a story for today's lessons. We're going to start, you know, all good stories have a big beer glass. It's the biggest beer glass I could possibly get, and a beer, of course. Start by filling the glass. And I'm going to put and fill the glass full of stones. Excuse the noise. So really fill the glass full of stones. So who would agree that the glass is full? Give me some feedback. Glass is full? No, a little bit full, about half full glass. Well, let me try something else. Let me see if I can put some smaller pebbles in, but I might have to take the top couple of rocks out just so I can pour the pebbles in. Let's see if I can squeeze the pebbles in the glass. I'll give it a bit of a shake. Try and get the pebbles in between the glass, top it up again. So now I've really filled the pebbles in between the stones. So now who would say and agree with me that the glass is full? Yeah,
No.
we've still got one. Others are going, it's still not full. Well, let's try one more thing. Let's see if we can get some sand in between the space of the stones and the pebbles. Let me pour the sand in. There we go. Now, I have to say that is pretty full. I mean, I can't find smaller sand, unfortunately. So now who would agree that the glass is full? Larry's still not quite full.
No.
Yeah, so full,
Still
not
have
full.
some space there.
Well, yes, there's beer to come. And, you know, you could say that there's some air also in between the stones, pebbles and sand. But it's pretty full. You couldn't fit much more in than that. Now, what would happen, imagine if we had an empty glass again, but I put the sand in first, then the pebbles, then the rocks. What would happen?
Couldn't fit. I mean, it will not get. Everything will not get fit in one glass.
Exactly. You're absolutely right. With the sand at the bottom, then the pebbles, you wouldn't be able to fit the rocks in the glass. Absolutely right. Now, I want you to imagine that the glass is your life. It's the capacity you have in life. And you can imagine that the rocks are the big things in your life. They're your family, they're your dearest friends, they're your most passionate hobbies, the big things, important things in your life. You know, the stones are the kind of next priority things, the things that, you know, your work, your everyday kind of things that you have to get done. And then the sand is all the small stuff. It's the little things, doing the little bits of cleaning, the little bits of administration, etc., etc. Then what happens with your life? If you just focus on the sand, you never have enough room in your life for the big rocks, the most important things in your life. So the moral of this little story is focus on the rocks first. Fill your glass full of the important things in your life first. Your friends, your family, all of the things that are dearest to you. Then you can add the pebbles, and often the sand will take care of itself. Reactions, questions to the story?
Wow, that was actually a simple thing, but it just makes really a lot of sense. Never thought of it that way. Sometimes I also tend to personally attend to these smaller things, giving them so much of importance and leaving out the bigger things. But when we do the bigger things, the smaller things automatically kind of get set in place. I guess that's my understanding of this. Awesome.
Absolutely. And it applies in life, but it equally applies in running a project or working in a team or delivering a product. You know, deliver the big rocks first and the rest will tend to take care of itself. Of course,
Wow.
You do have to clean up the sand sometimes, but you know, it's the rocks that take priority. Any other thoughts, reactions, questions?
Completely agreed to you, Mark. And I somehow feel balance is very, very important in life because if you balance, you actually give priority to everything which is full of class, right? So you got to prioritize and you have to have a balance in your life.
Absolutely, that balance is super important. And there's maybe one more lesson I've learned along the way in life. And no matter how full your glass is, there is always time for a beer. So cheers.
Cheers, Mark. Yes.
You can always fit a beer in. It's going to overflow. Like, you can always fit a beer in. So that's a great story for life, for running projects, delivering products, whatever it might be. Focus on the big rocks first. Fill it with everything else. Always take time occasionally to have a bit of fun and a beer. So thank you very much for the story. That's the introduction for today. Let me just get rid of this for a moment, then I'll swap the cameras back and we'll carry on with the rest of it. Cheers. There we go. Let me put that out of the way.
I really like the last part.
The beer. Absolutely. Or in my case, it's a non-alcoholic beer these days, but there you go. Let me swap the camera back. So thank you very much also for joining the camera. It's good to get the visual feedback on that one as the story goes through. Okay, coming back. Good. Hopefully you can see me again now, but on the front camera. I'm slowly getting better with my technology and my little videos and things. Slowly. I'm a bit old. Right, let me share then a little bit the presentation. So the focus of that was to lead into then project management, getting things done in life, which sounds easy, but actually is sometimes the hardest thing to do, is getting all of the activities that need to get done in a project or building a product. And I'll come back to our kind of different preferences. You know, we've already talked about communication preferences and work preferences. You know, some of us are very kind of logical orientated, some of us are very process orientated, some are interpersonal, and some are more creative. There's no judgment with that. That's just the kind of natural preference that we've grown up with through our lives. And actually, if you think about those preferences, there's one preference which naturally goes towards classical project management, and that's the process orientated people. And you know, often I work with a lot of project managers that do that kind of work. They tend to be, their preference tends to be very process orientated, because they're very sequential. They think like a plan. They can put these things together very easily for them. It's very natural for them. Those, I also know some wonderful creative people. They have different ways of getting stuff done, not necessarily putting things in a very strict ordered plan, for example. So how do you still do planning and drive actions to get things done based on these different preferences? Because there are some great tools depending on your preference of work style and communication. And that's what we're going to cover very quickly. But of course, hopefully if you watch the little video, can't talk about getting things done without talking about procrastination. And this is, you know, the process of just putting stuff off. And I'm terrible at procrastination. It's one of my challenges in life. So for example, I love making videos. I hope you've seen a few of those videos, but I procrastinate over doing the editing. It's just something I struggle emotionally to get into editing and doing that. And I'll end up doing all other kind of things that I normally don't like to do, like the ironing, the cleaning, all of this kind of stuff, just to avoid doing the editing. And you can think of it like two monkeys. One, your big procrastination monkey on one shoulder, and the other one is then the panic monkey on the other shoulder. And for me, with the editing, for example, it isn't until that deadline is coming up or I'm already a bit too late that the panic monkey wakes up and starts shouting loudly in my ear, and the procrastination monkey, you know, slowly goes away or hides from the panic monkey. So understanding and recognizing that, whoa, hold on, I'm procrastinating in this moment, just even being able to recognize that you're procrastinating is a great start then to eliminating procrastination or working through procrastination. You can also artificially set your alarm on the panic monkey as well. So your panic monkey wakes up earlier to get things done. By setting yourself deadlines and these kind of things. Asking your friend to set a deadline for you is a very helpful way of overcoming the procrastination monkey. But think about this also in the context of a team. If you're working together to get a product delivered, or you're working together on a project, everybody at some point is procrastinating on something. It's just natural human behavior. So think about ways that you can wake up the panic monkey in the team. This is where Agile can be very useful, because if you have those daily huddles, that's kind of the automatic panic monkey, because you have to turn up to the daily huddle and you have to say, what have you done? So it kind of keeps that procrastination monkey a little bit in the background. There's a downside to that though, especially in Agile on very focused, driven projects. If you're always in that state where you're having to turn up every day and deliver something, that can be very exhausting. So you also have to think about, a bit back to the analogy with the glass full of rocks and things, you also need a bit of downtime within that as well, so that you can recover from constant pressure of delivery. So before we jump in, just quick reactions, questions, thoughts around the work preferences and the good old procrastination monkey.
Sorry, Mark, can you repeat your question? I lost you in the last 30 seconds or so.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Just for feedback, questions around the procrastination challenge and the different styles of working.
So Mark,
as far as, sorry. Yeah.
Go ahead.
no, go ahead, Purnima. Sorry.
Okay, that's fine. Mark, this is actually very interesting. Somehow, I've never related procrastination and panic together. They actually go hand in hand. That's really so true. Because if we do step by step, like you said, yes, every day doing stuff, constantly is definitely it gets on to us, right? I mean, you have to deliver everything every day. Somebody's following you up and constantly, behind your back. Definitely, that's not a great space to be in. But this pebbles and sand thing where you said that, okay, I have done, productive or the core part of heavy work for the last 2-3 days. Today, let me do some little bit of sand work, let me just, touch upon things. Let me, arrange my UI, or let me beautify it, or, I think we can take that luxury. But when we are, like you said, Mark, I procrastinate many things. I'm also working at it. It's a disease, I would say. I mean, it's actually so feel good to procrastinate, right? So
Yeah.
that's actually a disease. And now I think of it as a disease, and I'm not procrastinating. I'm like, okay, do you have a procrastination disease? So yeah, I mean, so yes, we should be alert. So I'm just trying to understand how much of procrastination is okay, how much. I mean, it's very addictive. I mean, it can go on and on, right? So you need to really buckle up. So how do you think we can help ourselves by not procrastinating?
That's really good. You touched on a lot of things in what you say. It is just a natural human emotion and way of behavior, right? So everybody procrastinates. It really is there across everywhere. So you can think of it in a team context as well and an individual context. Overcoming procrastination, when procrastination is really preventing you from either performing at your best or delivering the big rock in your life, for example, you're working on the big rock in your life, or I'm focusing there. There are some ways of it. Firstly is to recognize when you're procrastinating. That's the first step, and you've touched on that already. Second is you can use the panic monkey analogy a little bit in your life by setting yourself some deadlines or getting other people to set deadlines for you that then kind of push you towards delivery. There is another good way of overcoming procrastination, it's called 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you just count simply to 5. If you recognize you're procrastinating, you count to 5. There's some psychology and there's some breathing behind that counting to 5. That means you can overcome the procrastination trigger and then get on and do it. So you go, oh, I'm procrastinating. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just do it. And I actually have that in another training. And there's a lady called Mel Robbins. She has many books out now. You can also find her on YouTube, which is also a procrastination tool. Yeah, and she has a lot of good methods of overcoming procrastination.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mark.
Good. Any other questions? We'll move on. No, all good. Then let's dive into then the process of getting things done. And I'm going to focus on the oldest, most simplest method of getting things done. And this is the Deming cycle. Plan, do, check, act. It's a very simple 4-step process for getting things done. Of course, there are many different ways and approaches of getting things done, but I always think this is the simplest. And actually, the Deming cycle has been, comes from quality assurance and quality management way back in the 1950s. It's also been embedded into the agile approach. In fact, the whole kind of agile sprint cycle is built on the plan, do, check, act Deming approach. And plan really means, as it sounds, plan the action. So first of all, what are the actions? What are the big rocks that need to get done? Then do them, but not just end there. Then check the results, review them, do an after action review, a retrospective, not just about the action itself, but the whole process that went into that action. Can I plan it better? Can I prioritize it better? In the execution of and delivery of the actions, is there a faster, better way of executing on the delivery? And then once you make that kind of retrospective check of results, then identify the improvement actions. And then the improvement actions go into the plan and we start all over again. So that cycle is a very simple but super powerful cycle. Often when we think about actions getting done, we just tend to focus on the action list. We end up with a nice Excel sheet or a Jira or something that has all of our actions in it. We don't think about how we can continuously improve the delivery of our actions. And so this cycle is super powerful and super useful. It almost completes the action delivery process rather than just focusing solely on the task itself. And the prioritization piece can also be important. Again, coming back to the analogy of the glass and the rocks and the pebbles, you can prioritize in multiple dimensions. The size of the rock, priority, but also the timeline of the rock, the risk of the rock, breaking into pieces, whatever it might be. So that planning part can also be a prioritized list rather than just a straightforward, like Jira list of things to do. So plan, do, check, act. Keep that in mind. It can significantly improve the way in which you get things done. But let's have a look at the 4 different types of planning. different types of planning. So who's heard of a work breakdown structure before? This will be revealing. Any of you heard of a work breakdown structure before? No, all quiet.
Yep.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah.
Good. You've heard of a work breakdown structure. It's very simple. Not always so easy to do, though. It takes a bit of practice and a bit of experience. And this is a very sequential think through of the actions that you need to do, normally in a time-based manner. And so, for example, if I'm planning a summer vacation, then, the first step of that is maybe, what are my destination plans? And then underneath destination, I might think, oh, maybe a theme park, a water park, a family visit, baseball game, whatever it might be, right? So this, drills down into different levels of granularity of the information that needs to get done. So you can think of, if you're delivering a product, you have a date to deliver the product on, but then, you might need to identify business requirements as the next level. To identify the business requirements, you might want to run a workshop, or you might have a blueprint, or you might have some process documentation that you need. So these are the different levels in the work breakdown structure. Which work preference, does this suit the most naturally to? So a work breakdown structure in terms of a planning methodology, which natural preference do you think this suits the most?
Didn't get your question, Amma. Can you repeat again? Sorry.
Yeah, so for the work breakdown structure, which natural working preference do you think this suits the most?
Maybe the first one that has what?
Almost.
Logical planning.
Yeah.
Almost, yeah. Go down one. It's the process orientated, it's the planning, it's the organized, it's the sequential, right? So close, very close. So, this is the natural home of project planners, and converting that work breakdown structure then into a classic waterfall or Gantt chart style project plan. Now, pretty much for all product development and projects that you'll do, somewhere, hopefully, you'll have something like this, a Gantt chart, with something like a work breakdown structure built into it. So all the tasks are in the work breakdown structure order, and then the Gantt chart is the time sequence, the view of the activities. And this is a classic MS project plan. Now, even when you do an agile project, which runs in cycles, you can still have a waterfall plan, because often you might have a deadline to deliver a certain product or a piece of functionality. And so you can run your sprints, and that would be, a certain level in the work breakdown structure. And then the delivery of the programming, the software, the business requirements, etc., then would fall into that. So there's nothing to stop you, if you're running agile projects, from also having a classic project plan. So I think this is very familiar. I think a lot of you have most probably come across this kind of thing in the past. A different style of planning, force field analysis. And this is then analyzing the actions that you identify. So you have a set of actions that you need to get done, and assessing them in terms of the constrainers, the constraints, versus the enablers. So this is a good, very proactive analysis. So the constraints are, what prevents us or slows us down in delivering that action. The enablers, of course, are then what accelerates or moves us faster to delivering that action, something that supports us in delivering that action. And it's a very simple approach, great for planning, Because if you can identify the kind of things that are slowing you down, you know, you can work on mitigating that and avoiding the constraints. And if you've identified the things that speed you up and support you in delivering those actions, you can deliver things faster. So in terms of improving the performance of getting things done, the force field analysis approach can be super powerful and super beneficial. So here comes the question. For a force field analysis, which preference do you think is its natural home? Any thoughts? It's all gone quiet. We've done the process one, so it limits it down to 3.
Maybe upper left.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely right. Of course, the analytical and logical approach. And I find it really useful in a way that a lot of work that gets done for design and build work for automation, robotics, AI, of course, naturally, the preference for doing that, because it's a highly analytical work and highly logical work, of course, the natural preference of people that tend to be working in that area are logical. And yet, I don't see often things like force field analysis planning being done, but it is a super useful tool, and it's a natural fit to those people that have that preference, right? And so it can really help with the planning and delivery of the work that you have. Force field analysis, super useful, especially if you have a logical preference. This is the tool for you to get your work done and to plan your work. The third approach for planning, and I actually use this a lot myself personally, and there are some fantastic tools. Someone in the lobby, bring you in. There are some fantastic tools for this particular way of planning that can automatically turn it into an MS project plan, for example. So it's a great tool, but then from this basis, you can also create other different project planning styles. And this is mind mapping. And a guy called Tony Buzan back in the 80s really popularized this approach. And the mind map is very simple. You start with the central topic, which could be deliver a specific piece of AI. And then the initial first level branches off it are then the next big topic. So that could be business requirements gathering, build of the software, test the software, publish the software. That could be the next level around. And then from that level, then you go to the next step. So business requirements, business requirement 1, business requirement 2, etc., etc. And so you expand the mind map then outwards in ever increasing degrees of granularity. And this is wonderful for those that are a bit more visual in nature and for that kind of activity. So here comes the question then. Which preference do you think this particular tool has its natural home with? There's only 2 more to choose from, so you're narrowing down your chances now.
Right upper, maybe?
Exactly. It's the creative picture, big picture, holistic, intuitive kind of preference, the more creative. Now, I've used this with people that are naturally creative and trained them on this, and it's amazing how some creative people that I've really worked closely with, they have these most fantastic ideas. They're super creative, but they really struggle at turning their wonderful ideas and creativity into reality. because they lack the planning preference. You know, their preference is the creative, fun stuff in their minds, the fun stuff, right? But when it comes to actually getting it done and building the product that they've had this incredible idea for, or putting that piece of artwork together, or driving a level of creativity, they get stuck because they enjoy the creative bit, but struggle then with the planning and the execution of their ideas. And this approach has super helped them by just visually getting stuff down in a brainstorming, mind mapping kind of way. That then gets a plan for them on a page, and whether they just use the picture or then convert that into something like an MS Project plan, it just gives them a planning tool then to track and to get things done. So it's super useful for those of you that are more creative and visual in mind for planning out even very complex pieces of work. I think the largest mind map I've ever done had about 3,500 items on it. We were doing a procure to pay project, and we used the mind map to do it because a lot of the guys that we had in there were creative. The final one, and there's no surprises here then, the natural preference and home for this then is the interpersonal way of planning. This is a value-based way of planning. So doesn't always sound logical because that's the analytical way of planning. But for interpersonal preferences, values are really important to people that have an interpersonal preference. And so with the actions that need to get done to deliver something, starting with, okay, what are the values that are driving this particular action? Does the action align to a set of values or principles? What are the standards that I'm going to have when I deliver that action? That could be quality standards, even ethical standards, right? What are the standards I'm going to build into delivering that action? What are the goals? So more focused on a goal rather than an action. And of course, the great thing about goals is they can be very high level. Big goals can be like the big rocks, could be a big goal, all the way down to the tiny goals. You know, a goal for today, for example, could be to complete this training review, and then that's one goal done. And then the fourth element for value-based planning, then for the interpersonal preference, is then, okay, if I have to achieve that goal, what is the knowledge or even the people that I need to achieve that goal? Interpersonal, thinking about, you know, the knowledge, the capabilities, what capabilities and people do I have around me that I can pull on their knowledge to then achieve the goal aligned to a set of standards which delivers on a value. So that's value-based planning. Again, is super helpful and just a different way of thinking about planning if you have a natural interpersonal preference. Thoughts, reactions. So I've covered there 4 different methods of planning: classic, project management, styly for the process preference, force field analysis for the analytical preference, mind mapping for the creative preference, and value-based planning then for the interpersonal preference. Thoughts, reactions, questions?
I can have some thoughts on that. So I remember when I was doing my master's research, this is the first time I heard about this mind map. So back then I had to like read so many research papers, like 30, 40, even 50 to get the concept done. So with that, we created a mind map that includes all the points in all those research papers. So with a high level view, I was able to understand everything that I read through, and it was very easy to relate the content. And even today, I'm just using the same concept when I'm designing the automation solution. I just put it into a diagram and try to link everything so that it's easy for me to figure out what are the missing parts and what are the things I don't understand, so that we can focus more on those areas.
Bit of background noise. That's the coffee machine going, I think, in the background. Yeah, you're absolutely right. You know, it's a great tool for those that are a bit more kind of visual and have a more creative preference for doing all of those kind of things. Analysis of topics, structuring very complicated topics. And then, of course, you know, if you use that for planning as well, it's a great tool for planning as well. No, great. Milos, you've got your hand up.
Yeah, I have a short question for you, Endla here. Do you have some links maybe where we can learn more about this technique?
Yeah, sure, absolutely. I'll send them out with the materials afterwards. There's a great set of books. If you look up any of Tony Buzan's books, he also puts all of the science behind that as well, and how to build really good mind maps. So Tony Buzan is a great starting point. He also has a website, etc. So and there are some great tools as well that you know you can get on the internet for free, actually, that you know draw you a mind map. And some of the ones that you pay for a little bit more can automatically convert the mind map into project plans as well, like an MS project plan, for example, which is super helpful and super quick way of building a project plan. So yes, I'll add some links when I send the materials out later.
Thank you.
Good question. Punima.
Milos, thanks for that question. Even I actually raised my hand to ask for some guidance in mind map. Actually, when I was young, I used to really learn only by images. So I used to, it was my way of learning. You know, I cannot read up these long theories and just kind of remember the points. I used to do that, but somewhere along the way, I kind of lost that, or kind of, I don't know how it is. In fact, very recently when I went to my daughter's school, so my daughter was asking her teacher, she said, teacher, I'm forgetting whatever I'm learning, so how do I? So she incidentally, she said, you know, you have to learn to use a mind map, and you put it out there and you walk here and there, and you know, you look at it. At that point itself, I don't know how you spoke about it today, but yes, this was what I was also thinking. Oh, that's a good idea. Even I didn't know. So she asked me, Mom, can you help me with what's a mind map? And I was like, okay, even I don't know much about, you know, it in a formal sense. So yeah, so yes, I would also like to learn this. I'm sure this is very useful. It has helped me in the past, but somehow I have just let it be. I don't know how I lost that in yeah, it'd be nice to have some guidance on that.
Yeah,
So
sure.
thanks,
I mean,
man.
again, you covered so much in what you said. So there is some deep psychology and science behind the whole visual learning aspect of it. And, you know, I'm a lot older than all of you. So, you know, historically, the way that people were taught in schools was very linear, very logical, not visual, not sound based, not kinesthetic, you know, these are the facts. You just have to learn the facts, right? So, but of course, in play school, when you're young, everything's fun, everything's drawing and painting. But somehow, as you go through your education, that actually disappears. You know, and your example of that is exactly, you know, how schools are built. That has changed, though, over the last 10, 15 years. Schools now incorporate and know about things like mind maps and incorporate that into methods of learning and stuff. So, so it is becoming better. Here's a challenge for you. So visual learning, even if you're not a visual learner, the brain is wired to recognize pictures, recognize faces. That's the way the brain is wired, right? So imagine for a moment, I'm going to activate your imagination. Imagine a picture of a pink elephant standing on 2 feet, wearing a top hat and a champagne glass. And the flag in the champagne glass has a number on it. 1568. Pink elephant in a top hat, champagne glass, and a flag and on the flag is the number 1568. 1568, pink elephant. I'm going to ask you in 2 weeks' time what the number is. See if you can remember it. You won't forget it because
Wow, really?
So this is the wonderful science behind visual learning, but that's a whole nother training. I can spend weeks on that training. But you're absolutely right. So these are the kind of tools. So when you think about getting work done and you think about planning, naturally, the way that planning is done in the world today is to go straight to that kind of Gantt chart work breakdown structure. But that's not everybody's preference. In fact, it's only 25% of the population's preference of working and planning. So for you individually, if you know now better your own personal preference, use the tool that suits your preference the best. Whether it's value-based planning, whether it is a mind map, absolutely. Learn how to do mind maps. Get a little tool that helps you do mind maps. If you're far more logical, use the force field analysis. If you think about a team, often a team will have all of those preferences within it. If you've got a fully balanced team, you'll have a bit of all of these preferences within the team. So when you do your planning as a team, bring in all aspects of planning. Maybe start with a mind map, for example, as a team. Then from the mind map, take the big actions and do a force field analysis. From the force field analysis, then do a work breakdown structure. From the work breakdown structure, do the value-based analysis that then aligns that to goals and to the values and the knowledge you need to get that work done. And if you do that as a team, oh, wow, you can achieve almost anything because you're leveraging then all work preferences of the team. You're actually using the benefits of the different styles of planning, which gets you something a little bit good out of each of those, like the accelerators out of force field analysis, the visual aspect of complex systems out of the mind mapping, aligning that to knowledge and goals and values from the interpersonal, as well as the planning. So super, super powerful if you combine actually all four styles of planning. But first and foremost, find the one that works best for you. And already you'll see your work flow and organize far, far better. And all those inefficiencies will disappear. Good. I think I have one more slide to share with you. So let's take a look. And then, of course, the last thing is go get things done. There's a lot of work in life. Back a little bit to the glass. Focus on the rocks first. In anything like a project or product delivery, what are those big rocks? And focus on getting those things done first. If you're leading a project, it's equally as important for a leader to focus on the rocks first. Focus on the big rocks and everything else will get done if you're leading teams, that's for sure. If you focus on the sand and you're micromanagers as a leader, certainly for projects, that will slow the project down because you'll be so focused on the sand that you'll miss the big rocks. You won't have time and your project team will not have time to get the big rocks done. And there is just so much to get done in life, right? Everything from waking up in the morning to going to bed in the evening. So in all of the materials, you will find now the structure of the materials is based on all the different preferences. You'll find things like mind maps in all of the materials I send you, which summarize and great way to memorize then the delivery of the topics. You'll find keywords, which are value-based, etc. In all the materials. You'll find at the beginning of everything we do, there's a plan and an agenda. Yeah, within everything you receive from me, you'll also find all the four preferences built in to the training material. Super. So we have a little bit of time left. Any questions, reflections, thoughts all the way from my glass that's now full of rocks and wet sand from the beer. Yeah, thoughts and reactions.
Thanks, Mark, for the awesome session. Actually, starting from the pebbles till mind map it's very interesting. Your sessions are very visual, exactly the way I love, and it's very visual, it's very practical, and most importantly, very, very simple. It's the entire complex concepts of project management or agile, whatever it may be. It's broken down to such simple terms. So so thank you so much for that, and I would love to. I feel, I don't know if others agree with me. I really feel some few sessions from you on mind maps. Probably you can give us some assignments, or we can, in your session itself, we can do and kind of get that skill in. It would be awesome. But of course, I let the team and you all decide on that. But that I would love to learn. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for the kind words and the feedback. And for sure, if there are topics out of this then that you want to dive into deeper, we can arrange that, right? We have the times. It's just a case of setting the time up, and then we can dive into that. So I'll take on board the mind map, and then maybe we do an extra little session on how to build them, how to use them to the maximum, how to build that visual memory and learning as well throughout that. So for sure, we can do that as well. So I'll reach out as well to Eric, and we'll get something arranged. We can definitely do that. And I'm hoping, what I've really tried to do, because we have very small amount of time, is really, from all of the experience and reading hundreds of books on all of these kind of topics, is pull out the gems that really have the biggest impact, the factors that really drive the greatest success. And I've done a lot of analysis of over 5,000 projects to identify what exactly are the genuine success factors of a project, right? And a lot comes back to communication styles and preferences and things like this. So hopefully I'm delivering you the gems so that you don't have to spend years going through books and experience, so you can accelerate your own careers and development. That's the goal anyway. No, super. Last moment for questions and reflections.
Thank you for that, Mark.
Thank you
so much.
Yeah, thanks, Penny. Ishan, go ahead.
Yeah, so it's slightly offline, Mark. When it gets down to planning, I am a organized planner, planner, logical planner. When I work with the team, I am good with the deliverables. It's being delivered on time. Now, the suggestion that I need is, when I work as an individual, when it is about an individual task, I do not work unless my ass is on fire. So what do I do? I mean, that's just me. That's just me. I mean, every time I work with the team, I deliver when it has to be delivered. But in an individual task, I take my own sweet time. And the right phrase is, I do not work unless my ass is on fire. So what do I do? Do we have a training around that? Do we have something which could possibly make me a better individual contributor?
Absolutely. You're not the only one, by the way, Ishan. I'm also the same. Unless there's some kind of fire going on, I don't tend to move on a lot of topics. So it's only natural, right? So it's only natural. There's a few things you can do immediately. So think about that plan, do, check, act cycle as a starting point. Think about your panic monkey more, because, as you say, the way that you phrased it, it's the fire panic monkey that suddenly wakes up and starts screaming in your ear to get it done. Think about how you can use that panic monkey to your advantage. So, the fire comes when it's almost too late. So set deadlines for yourself, or even better, if you're working in a team, get a trusted friend or a trusted colleague to set a deadline for you, and then have them hold you accountable. Say, hey, look, you've got to do this action by Friday. You're going to deliver it to me on Friday. I'm going to set up a 15-minute call with you to make sure you deliver it to me on Friday. Then you've activated your panic monkey by using somebody else to be the fire for you. The other thing then I would really advise is take a look on YouTube for a lady called Mel Robbins. Again, I'll put the links in the material that I send out after the session, because she's become, you know, the guru in overcoming procrastination and getting stuff done. And she has some very simple tools and approaches and techniques of doing that. So yeah, have a look at Mel Robbins. That's another way to help motivate yourself and drive things forward. But we all suffer from the same thing, so you're not alone, not by a long way.
Thanks.
Very good. So we're at time. So thank you very much for the session today. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Hopefully you take some of that with you. Look forward to seeing you again. Now, in 2 weeks' time, I'll be on Easter vacation. So I'll be on vacation. So we won't have a session in 2 weeks. It'll be in 4 weeks' time. But then the next session is going to be around presentation skills, how to build the most amazing presentations and deliver the most amazing presentations. So more back to communication, how you can build fantastic presentations that really have impact with your audience as you go. So in 4 weeks' time, I'll see you all again for presentation skills. Have the most fantastic weekend. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Mark. Have
Thanks,
a great
everyone.
day. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.